Welcome to ETCIO. It could often be overwhelming for a CIO to sit in the office and try and decide on the most appropriate mix of cloud solutions. There are workloads that are best served by in house servers through private cloud, and there are use cases where public cloud offers the best agility and business benefits. In a time like this, choosing one over the other may prove detrimental for business. Hybrid cloud, therefore, has clearly emerged as a top priority for most businesses. So today we have with us Rajesh Dhar, Senior Director of Hybrid IT at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, who will talk about how you can best adopt hybrid IT. Welcome, Rajesh.
Thanks, Varun. Thanks for the introduction and pleasure to be here with you on this discussion about hybrid clouds.
Let me kickstart the discussion by talking about the adoption challenges which enterprise face while adopting hybrid cloud environments. Given that you could have multiple public clouds, you could have an internal cloud. So, what kind of adoption challenges that typically enterprises deal with?
So we've been working with large enterprise customers here in India and across the globe, and be it banking and finance, telecom, manufacturing, retail, and you get to hear multiple reasons and challenges. There have been good success stories. There have been issues in terms of learning curves. But I think if I had to summarize some top 7 or 8 reasons, what we continuously hear from people who are on this journey on hybrid cloud would be first and foremost is around security of data, and it becomes very critical for organizations which are work under regulatory norms, be it banking, in even around telecom now, around data privacy. Second area which we saw consistent feedback coming is around cloud cost management. A lot of people initially, when they went on to public clouds, thought that it's going to be cheaper, but we are seeing a lot of struggle now. A lot of companies are having in managing the cost. Third area is around compliance, and it's kind of linked to security of data, which is when as data starts moving from private clouds onto public cloud, there are compliance issues. Who you share with, what kind of guarantees you have around data leakages, data theft, data loss. So there is a lot of compliance issues which start coming in as you start moving data from private clouds to public cloud. We also seen a lot of challenges around cloud integrations or migrations. It's very easy when you have cloud native applications and you kind of move them on to public cloud. But what about your legacy applications which are not cloud native in nature? How do you manage those? We've also seen people struggle with multi-cloud environments, because each cloud has its own environment. And what we're seeing is silos, and customers now have to deal with multiple IT teams managing these multi-cloud environments, which is a reality in lot when customers or people are using more than one cloud provider for different needs. There's also a challenge of vendor lock-in, and we saw that during COVID times, a lot of people were not able to get out of tightly controlled cloud agreements which they have signed, and it's not easy. So we see issues of vendor lock-in, and then there is also insufficiency of resources and expertise. These are new areas, and while people are on these digital transformation journeys, we also see a decent amount of lack of resources which these companies can have on board. So this is in my mind sum total of what all issues we have seen in the market as customers, large enterprises, have embarked on this digital transformation journey around hybrid clouds.
So, in your opinion, how can these issues be addressed?
So these are evolving areas. So you may not have answers to practically every challenge, but as you know, technology has this amazing way to solve problems over a period of time, and that's the momentum IT companies create, be it at HP. So a lot of these issues have got mitigated, and I'll speak about some of the work which we are doing in that space. There's a lot of work which is happening around cloud security, around IT governance, some of the models which you have within your own premises, and how do you extend those. There are a lot of decent container platforms which are available now for customers, and customers can now use those to manage this hybrid journey and manage these workloads across clouds. There are also solutions. At HP, we what we call as right mix advisor. Lot many times people felt that if a application or workload is not critical, let's run it on public cloud. But they didn't realize the commercial construct because a lot of data dependencies. So they realized that while the application was not very critical, but the amount of data up down it had to do actually made it financially unviable application on public cloud. So a lot of learnings have happened, and a lot of that learning is with us, with customers. And in my mind, I think there is a lot of capability now, both at the customer and also at organization like ours, to make this journey a little more less stressful as compared to what it was.
Talking specifically about data and security, you said that also becomes sort of a challenge sometimes. So, in cases where you have applications on public cloud, but they end up accessing some data from the private cloud, how do you get visibility into such movement of data, and how do you secure your environment?
We have a view on especially around data, and as you rightly said, data is going to be the most critical component for a lot of organizations, because a lot of insights you get, and data also has gravity. When I say data has gravity, what it means is every time it moves around, it costs a lot of money, and you also kind of exposing it to possible risks because when it moves around. So we have what we call as intelligent enterprise, which technically what it means is that first of all, you need to have a very, very strong understanding of, because a lot of data is being generated. And as data gets generated both at the edge as well as on the cloud, you also need to have a very robust mechanism to understand what is important for you or what may not be, because you may hold a lot of data, spend a lot of money, hosting it, but then it may not be of any use to you.
Absolutely.
So we believe there's a strong methodology you need to have within your organization to figure out, depending on the industry you are in, depending on the cuts you want and insights you want, what kind of data is relevant. Then the second issue is life cycle of data. Data when it's hot, data when it kind of gets cooler and then eventually gets cold. It also needs to have the right destination, because you also have to manage this data or workloads basis the cost, the most optimal TCO. So what we're seeing, getting evolved is depending on the data relevance, the best destination, whether it is going to be on-prem, whether it's going to be on the cloud, that method or science you need to have within your organization to look at how you're going to manage the data in its life cycle. And the third area is, which is very important and links back to the statement I made, which was around data as gravity. Because once you have this data scattered across, how do you infer? How do you create inferences for better business outcomes without necessarily blowing a lot of money in moving this data around? So you also need to have a very, very refined and I would say very intelligent methodology to get insights from this data without necessarily moving it around. And that's the third piece we see. And that in a way then manages two, three things. One, it manages cost, it manages security issues, you're not unnecessarily moving the data, and you also have a very intelligent way of only looking at data which is relevant for you and then getting insights for your better business outcomes.
Initially, you talked about a lot of challenges that enterprises faced during the initial phase of COVID-19. They were facing issues moving data from one vendor to the other or one cloud to
Yeah.
the other. Can you talk about certain instances of how HPE kind of helped customers overcome these obstacles?
So there are two, three ways. Let me give you what all we could hear from the market. There were two, three bigger issues. One big issue was work from home became the new norm for most of the organizations. And if you see majority of our IT enabled services, They do a lot of work for sensitive organizations in banks, in insurance companies, telecom, where data security is paramount. So not only were they struggling to have a lot of capacity build up to sustain this tremendous spike in people wanting to work from home because of COVID situation, there was also an issue: how do you do it securely? So we saw, we quickly could come out with some very good VDI bundles for a lot of our customers, robust and mechanisms to see that you are able to roll out this work from home without compromising around the security of data, because there are a lot of I think there are very sensitive and you could say very tight agreements these companies have with the end customers on data security. So this was one big issue which customers faced: how quickly they can scale the work from home environment without compromising on the security. The second area where we saw a lot of pressure was around cash flow, and a lot of companies, especially mid market and SMB, there was a lot of disruption on cash flow. And what HP did was we committed around $2 billion worldwide in terms of helping our customers to manage this in terms of sustaining their IT operations. And there are a lot of innovative financial constructs we created. You're aware we have a very strong presence in India through our HP Financial Services. So a lot of leasing methodologies, you could buy, sell off your IT assets and lease them back so that you can get immediate infusion of cash into your business. So a lot of that we were able to provide to customers. And the third area where we saw a lot of churn, which is where a lot of startup companies who had very strong contracts, binding contracts with cloud providers, we were able to provide GreenLake services. And I will talk about that in subsequent discussions. GreenLake is the industry's first on-prem pay-as-you-consume service on infrastructure, which was launched by HP a few years back, and that came in very handy for a lot of these companies who wanted to get out of these very strong commitments on the business to a more flexible option from HP. And lastly, I wanted to also talk about our social responsibility activities which we do under CSR. We have a program where we have been able to help government through our e-health centers. We have close to around 200 e-health centers across 20 states in India, where a lot of people are able to get remote health care advice. And we also using those now for COVID screening. So close to around 50,000 patients were able to avail our e-health centers for COVID, which we have implemented from May onwards. So these are few ways HP has been helping customers and the government in the country.
Rajesh, you talked about GreenLake. GreenLake has been there for a while, but in this context of the pandemic, what kind of benefits did it really offer to enterprises? We know that it's been greatly popular, but if you could highlight some of the key benefits that it brought about.
GreenLake is the first industry option which is in your premises. You can have infrastructure on a pay-per-use basis. Now it works very well because what happened over a period of time is that there is a goodness on public clouds, and one of the big advantages is that you can align your cost to the revenue, especially for businesses, greenfield projects, startup companies, or areas where you're not sure about the revenue profile. You like the concept of pay per use, but at the same time, a lot of customers are not sure, not comfortable in moving a lot of their strategic data or strategic applications onto public cloud for multiple reasons. It could be security, it could be latency, it could be that that cloud provider could actually end up becoming your competition, in years to come, and that has happened, especially in fintech companies. You see, so GreenLake as a construct becomes a very palatable option because what you do is you have the infrastructure, you have the operating system, you have the virtualization layers, you have some more softwares within your premises, and you are able to pay that on a pay-per-use basis with HP, and that is within your premises and within your firewall. So it kind of helps customers to align the cost with the revenue without necessarily bothering about the other issues which I spoke about, whether it's security or latency or whatever. It's been a fantastic service from HP worldwide. We have close to around, I think, 2,000 customers. In India, we have around 70, 80 customers now who use our GreenLake services, which is infrastructure as a on a pay-per-use model. It's really worked well for us.
Rajesh, you briefly mentioned intelligent enterprises that you're trying to create. Can you give some insights on how you're really helping enterprises become more intelligent?
So I think it starts, if you see, I spoke about hybrid clouds. And a lot of that relevance is on the private clouds to first start with. And a lot of, we believe it's going to be 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, or the reverse, depending on the industry you are in and what kind of regulatory and compliance issues you have to face. So first of all, when you look at private clouds, we also seeing a lot of goodness which people got exposed to on public clouds now is available on private clouds. So whether it is compute, whether it is storage or network, composable as an infrastructure, or hyper convergence, a lot of these new technologies now available in the private cloud. So HP has the most comprehensive set of technologies which cater to private cloud setups. Now you add to it a very artificial intelligence based platform, what we call is InfoSight, because over a period of time, what we also realized that the IT sprawl is becoming extremely complex. So when something goes wrong, it is a very heterogeneous setup. So think of a stock exchange or a bank, which is running core banking, where you're handling a lot of these UPI transactions. When something goes wrong, you cannot now manage it manually. So you need a lot of automation, you need a lot of intelligence to first now figure out what the root cause is, and even before the failure happens, you should be able to pinpoint and get it rectified. So that is the first level of intelligence you would need in managing your private clouds. The second level of intelligence comes around one, optimization, and second, provisioning. Because what happens is you talk about hybrid clouds, you talk about cloud busting, you talk about private cloud, scaling onto public cloud. How does that happen automatically? And that intelligence you need to have in the enterprise, where without manual intervention, you should be able to scale up, scale down applications depending on the usage. And a lot of that today, you do it manually. Now we're seeing a lot of intelligence being built around that, where automatically you can move up and down resources for a specific application depending on the load. So that's the next level of application provisioning we do. The third level is guaranteed performance. Now you may also have, you're looking at, a lot of companies now, depending on how they segment the market or how they segment their customers or how they segment their internal customers, there is a guaranteed performance you would want to provide as part of the SLAs. How does that happen? Who monitors it? So you need a lot of intelligence to monitor performance of various applications which you're delivering or experiences you're delivering to your customers. And the last piece, and which is where we launched our container platform, which is the most robust industrialized Kubernetes-based container platform, which now brings next level of intelligence around two areas. One, how do you manage this workload management across clouds? Because something which is running on private cloud needs to move to public cloud. Should it be cloud one? Should it be cloud two? Depending on latencies, cost. So how do you handle that intelligence? That's also what we're building. And the last area is, which is around data, which you spoke about. Now, data gives a lot of intelligence to organizations if it is used in the right manner. So we have this setup, which is Emerald Data Fabric, allows you first to manage data across public clouds, private clouds, and then get the inferences in a most optimal way so that you don't spend a lot of money moving these data around. So that's how we see intelligent enterprises running their businesses for better business outcomes.
So much, Rajesh, for sharing that information. I'm sure it would be greatly helpful for all the viewers. Thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Varun.